Welcome to Tybalt's Apprentice. And this time I am thrilled to be joined by Max.
How's it going?
It's going very well. So what we're going to be talking about is Commander, and one Commander in particular. Who is your Commander?
Today my Commander is Jhoira Weatherlight Captain.
Awesome. Now, first of all, a couple of things. How long have you been playing Magic?
I've been playing Magic, I think, for the better part of about 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years, okay. And I will say that Max has played with us a couple of times before, and by us, I mean my core group of Brian, Josh, and Enrique. And then we've played with other people here at the store, too.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have Max on here to talk about his deck, and that's really the whole purpose of Tybalt's Apprentice. The idea is to get other people's perspective, maybe people that haven't played as long, or maybe people that have played longer. And I always feel like there's something to learn from anybody. Even your losses when you lose, you can learn something from that. That's probably when I learn the most.
Yeah, same here.
But, well, let's get right into it. You've got a couple of honorable mentions for your deck.
I do. So a couple of cards that would be honorable mentions in this deck would be Karn's Temporal Sundering. It's a legendary sorcery that reads, target player takes an extra turn after this one, and my favorite part about this card is you also get to bounce someone's permanent. So,
ouch.
That's real fun. And on top of that, it's a legendary, so it actually does trigger Jhoira as well.
So it seems like there was another caveat or something else about that, because I could never get that to work for me when I was trying to use that. I obviously didn't. What is it that you have to have?
Okay, so it's a legendary sorcery, and legendary sorceries can only be cast if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker.
So you've got to have something on the board. Well, this is one of those times where if you read the card tells you what it does.
Exactly.
So that's my problem right there.
All right.
What was the other one?
So the other card is Laboratory Maniac. The only reason I included it is because my commander says draw a card. This deck does tend to storm off really, really quickly, so drawing a bunch of cards, you might run out. So alternate win cons are always fun.
Absolutely. So with that being said, what is it that makes Jhoira work for you?
Just a critical mass of historic cards. So most of the deck is made up of artifacts, but I also did include a few that are just legendaries. So they also trigger Jhoira. So she reads, whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. So historics are artifacts, legendaries, or sagas. So
right. Okay, so she's got several ways to get her, but what's her cost to get her out?
So Jhoira costs 2 red and blue.
Okay.
And she's a 3/3 body, which is not terrible.
Not terrible. Good. Okay. So really, what do you use to make her work once you got her on the field then? I'm assuming you have to get her out on the field first.
Well, yes. So the deck, I mean, it functions a little bit without her, but it's better if she's on the board. It makes the deck a lot quicker.
Right.
So once she's out, my favorite part about this deck is the Cheerio. I call them Cheerios, the 0 drops. So we have a couple. One is Spellbook, which has the additional bonus of affording me no maximum hand size, which is nice. It's just a 0 drop trigger, and now I don't have a max hand size. Ornithopter, because it's a 0/2 flyer, so 0 drop blockers are always nice, and I get a trigger again. And an Everflowing Chalice, which does have a multi-kicker cost, so you can pay any multiple of 2, and you'll get charge counters on it. I never ever pay the kicker cost. It's just a 0 drop for me in this deck. It's just a draw trigger.
Gotcha. Okay. What else makes it work from there?
So we also have a mini package of mana reducers. So my favorite and the most important one I think in this deck is Ugin the Ineffable, or Eugene. So he's the new one from War of the Spark, and he's a very good card, but his most important ability is his static ability to reduce colorless spells that you cast by 2. Nice. 2 generic mana. He does have a +1, which lets you manifest cards and kind of draw cards, but most important ability is his static ability. And also he can blow up permanents, so that's kind of fun. And so we have more mana reducers. We have Jhoira's Familiar, which is a 4 drop, and your historics cost 1 less, and it's also flavorful because Jhoira. We have a Foundry Inspector and an Etherium Sculptor, both of which also reduce the cost of your artifacts by 1 generic mana. And I included Saheeli the Gifted in this category also because of her second +1 ability. to reduce the cost of the next spell you cast by 1 for each artifact that you control currently.
So, at this point, before we talk any more about this, what is it that attracted you? I'm going to guess, drawing cards. Yes. But what are these colors that you normally play when you search for a commander? Because I know you have a few decks. About how many decks do you have?
Well, right now I have 3 active decks, but I've had many.
Okay.
Many.
So you dismantle them and you don't use them?
Yes. Oh, if I find that there's a deck that I'm not playing as much, I'll tend to kind of break it apart and use the pieces for another deck that I'm more interested in at the time.
Do you keep a deck list so you can put it back together? Or
no, I should actually do.
Just curiosity, because I probably wouldn't either. But then again, I don't break my decks down. At this point, I have 20 of them or so. So, yeah, if I am going to break them down, then that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
But, okay, I didn't mean to pull you off track there.
No, you're good.
But what else?
So what attracted me to Jhoira was, okay, so my first commander ever was Keranos, God of Storms. And the deck was terrible. But I like Izzet. Izzet is my favorite color combination. So when I saw Jhoira, I was like, it's a commander. It's my favorite color combination, and she draws you cards. It's done. Let's do it.
Indeed.
I
was going to say, what next then?
Okay, so just a couple of super simple artifacts. Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots for haste, and just to give her some kind of protection, because she does tend to draw a lot of hate. People see Jhoira and they kind of kill that person. Whoever's playing Jhoira, kill him.
Now, is it so interesting? Now, do you think that's particular to your play group or the people that you're with?
I don't know. I guess there's just something about a commander that says draw cards that's a little bit scary.
Okay, because I was going to say in our play group, I don't think that I would perceive that as a threat immediately, but then it depends on who else is at the table too.
Right.
I guess
if there are a lot of less powerful decks, it goes, well, that one's really strong.
That one could storm off and stuff. That one might slide underneath the radar. But do you Voltron her up? Is there anything else that you add to her?
Not really. What I mostly do is kind of just amass an army of artifacts and either storm off and so there is another win.
I was just going to say that we're kind of leading into that sort of, but we'll get to that in a second. Then.
Yeah, so I either do that or I have another win con, which is sitting right here. I just kind of amass an army of stuff and just win as much as I can.
Okay.
So I think my favorite win con in this deck. Well, no, we'll get to my favorite one in a sec. So my second favorite win con is I have the combination of Omniscience and Aetherflux Reservoir. So Omniscience is a 10 mana cost enchantment. It's 7 blue. And it says you may cast non-land cards from your hand without paying their mana costs, which in this deck is beyond ridiculous.
Yes.
And especially I would call this deck, I would categorize it as Artifact Storm. Mm-hmm. So especially in a Storm deck, being able to play all your cards for free and keep the chain going with your commander that says draw cards is insane. So along with that, I have Aetherflux Reservoir, and if you've played against that card, you know that it's ridiculous. If you haven't, I'll read it for you. It says, whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn, which is pretty cool. Like, life gain is good. Sure. And then there's this second part, it's just a small thing. It says, pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player.
Oof.
So most likely, once you hit 50 life, someone's dead. Or if they threaten you, they're dead.
Sure.
So, yeah. I've won a few times with the combination of Omniscience and Aetherflux. It's really fun to have. It's a little tough to get out, Omniscience being a 10-drop, but sometimes we get there. So my favorite win con in this deck is Grafted Exoskeleton, which is an equipment artifact, and it reads... equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has Infect. So, if you don't know, Infect is a really fun way to win.
We love Infect. So here's the question that I've put out to just about everybody when we've talked about this.
Sure.
Do you believe that 10 Infect is appropriate for Commander?
For Commander, I think it should probably be like 15 or 20. 10 is way too easy.
Here.
Way too easy. Like, not that I don't love it. I love it. No. It's my favorite way to win.
Fair enough. It's an interesting thing, and it usually comes up between Commander players and between those of us that like Infect. I'm more than happy to take you out with 10. If I had to do it with 15, I'm probably still going to do it with 15.
Yeah, exactly.
I seldom attack for just 10 Infect.
Yeah, you do your best to, like, as much as you can.
20 or 25
just
or whatever.
Just in case they have some way to stop some damage.
Exactly.
Yep.
But definitely a favorite way to win.
I think in a 40 life format, Infect is a little... I think they probably should have raised it to 15. But I'm not complaining. I'm definitely not complaining. So it gives your creature +2/+2 an Infect. If it happens to detach from the permanent that it's attached to, you'll sacrifice it. That's not important. You're not doing that.
Right.
So there are 2 cards in this deck that particularly work well with this card. And the reason is because they deal damage to every single opponent at the same time. So the cards are Psychosis Crawler and Reckless Fireweaver. So Psychosis Crawler has a power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, which is, mildly important. But really, it's whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So if you happen to have Infect on your Psychosis Crawler, when you're drawing cards, you're actually hitting everybody for Infect.
Nice.
And Reckless Fireweaver works very similarly. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, it will deal 1 damage to each opponent. So same thing here, especially in an artifact deck where I just have mass and army. It's super easy with this combination to just kill everybody at the table at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's that's kind of scummy, but I like it. It's my favorite way to win.
There are even more degenerate combos out there, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I don't have them in this deck. I'm not that degenerate. I try not to be. And I think lastly, we kind of have some cards that just speed up the deck. So I have a Mystic Forge, which is from M20, and I was really psyched to see this card, especially because I knew I was building Jhoira. So it says, let's read it. It's a 4-drop, and it reads, you may look at the top card of your library anytime, which any card that says that is already really, really good.
Right.
And you may cast the top card of your library if it's an artifact card or a colorless non-land card. So that's really, really, really good.
Really important.
Really, really good. And it does also have a tap ability. You are allowed to tap it, pay a life, and exile the top card of your library if it's something that you don't want, if it's a land, or if it's some card that maybe it's ramp, but you're already mostly through the game, you don't need it. It lets you just filter through the top of your deck. Absolutely great card. And I like to combine that with Vedalken Orrery, which lets you cast all your non-land cards as though they had flash. So you're just taking turns on everybody's turn.
Right.
And along with that is Unwinding Clock, which untaps all your artifacts every untap step of every player. So you're really just taking turns on people's turns and just absolutely running over people.
How long does it take you to get this deck running?
I would say the average game takes me about probably 4 turns to start doing
before
stuff.
You start doing stuff.
Yeah, like maybe 5 or 6 if it's a slower game. But for the most part, I have a lot of mana rocks and a lot of cost reducers, so for me the deck is about turn 4, turn 5 getting my engine rolling
and so on.
Yeah,
okay.
Getting it going.
Also inside the deck, and I know we didn't pull these out or whatever, but do you have any other creatures, or is it all just kind of artifacts to get things running?
It's not all artifacts. I have a lot of legendary creatures. So I also leaned into the legendary side of the historic Jhoira's historic clause. So I have stuff like Arcanis the Omnipotent, which says tap, draw 3 cards.
Okay.
I have the Locust God, which as you draw cards, it makes 1/1 haste flyers, which are always really, really cool.
Absolutely.
And I have a Kozilek, actually. I have Kozilek the Great Distortion in this deck. So if you happen to be short on cards, he'll not only will he draw you from the Jhoira's cast trigger, but he'll draw you cards from his own trigger.
Nice.
So all these are legendaries. They'll trigger Jhoira. They draw you cards. They let you do stuff. It's great.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing it, though I would rather see it being played on somebody else. Well, we'll see how this goes. But anything else? Any other final closing comments regarding this one in particular?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess I'll throw in one more honorable mention. I will do 2. So 2 more cards that just kind of they just pretty much seal the game if it's late enough, and I just kind of need one more little push to win. One is Factor Fiction. It's one of my favorite blue cards probably ever. So if you know, then you know. If not, we'll read it. It's a 4-mana instant. It's 3 and blue. And it reveals the top 5 cards of your library, and an opponent will separate those cards into 2 piles. You get to pick a pile to put in your hand, and you pick the other pile to go to the graveyard.
Right.
So that can really just turn the game in your favor. You basically get free cards.
Definitely.
And the last card we'll say is Saheeli's Artistry. So this one, actually, I think I've done a lot of work with this, stealing other people's stuff instead of copying my own.
Okay.
So we'll read it. It's a 6-mana sorcery, 4 blue, and it lets you choose one or both. It creates a token that's a copy of target artifact, which in this deck is pretty cool if I happen to need another artifact.
Sure.
And it creates a token copy of a creature that is an artifact in addition to its other types. And if it's something like an artifact creature, I can actually make 2 copies of that same card.
Nice.
So yeah, that's pretty much how I push to win.
Fair enough. Well, you also mentioned that you had a couple other decks. I'd like to say I definitely want to have you back on here. We'll talk about those too.
Absolutely.
Thank
Sounds
you
like fun.
very much for joining me. And also for those of you watching, if you are in the Manhattan Beach area, definitely come on down here, take a seat here at the table, tell me about your deck. Also, we talk about, well, I talk about it at any rate, a lot of Arena. You can also find that on this channel. I want to remind everybody to be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Most of all, comment. Let's get a discussion going here. Do you see anything that might be missing in his deck? Well, we didn't cover all the cards or whatever, but if you have any suggestions on making those cards work better,
I love suggestions. I'm always looking to improve my deck. So if you have suggestions, please leave them down below.
leave them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell. And in the meantime, we'll see you next time on Temple's Apprentice.